The roar of the camel, a sermon. Shaqshaqiya, the roar of the camel. Shaqshaqiya, the third sermon in Nahj al-Balagha, is considered one of Imam Ali's most famous and language-rich sermons. In it, he discussed the issues that have come to the surface during the era of the three caliphs before him. He also talked about how he felt during these times, having to endure the mistakes the three have done, deviating from Prophet Muhammad. Beware by Allah, the son of Abu Quhafa, Abu Bakr, dressed himself with it, the caliphate, and he certainly knew that my position in relation to it was the same as the position of the access in relation to the handmill. The flood water flows down from me, and the bird cannot fly up to me. I put a curtain against the caliphate and kept myself detached from it. Then I began to think whether I should assault or endure calmly the blinding darkness of tribulations, wherein the grown are made feeble, and the young grow old, and the true believer acts. In the beginning, Imam Ali addresses how Abu Bakr took the position of caliph, even though he and the other two caliphs after him shook hands with Ali on the day of Ghadir, agreeing that he will be the rightful successor after Prophet Muhammad. He also spoke about his eternal conflict as whether to attack I found that endurance thereon was wiser, so I adopted patience, although there was pricking in the eye and suffocation in the throat. I watched the plundering of my inheritance, till the first one went his way, but handed over the caliphate to Ibn al-Khattab after himself. Then he quoted Al-Asha's verse, "My days are now passed on the camel's back in difficulty, while there were days of ease when I enjoyed the company of Jabir." Here, Imam Ali answers his previous dilemma, stating that he will remain patient even though there was pricking in the eye and suffocation in the throat. This line shows how hurt neglected and oppressed the Imam felt. Imam Ali continues by saying that Abu Bakr gave the position of caliph to Umar ibn al-Khattab, which wasn't his rightful position in the first place. For all of God's prophets and successors are chosen by him, and Ali was the chosen one on the day of Ghadir. He then quoted a line in a poem which It is strange that during his lifetime he wished to be released from the caliphate, but he confirmed it for the other one after his death. No doubt these two shared its udder strictly among themselves. This one put the caliphate in a tough enclosure, where the utterance was haughty and the touch was rough. Mistakes were in plenty, and so also the excuses therefor. One in contact with it was like the rider of an unruly camel. If he pulled up its rein, the very nostril would be slit, but if he let it loose, he would be thrown. Consequently, by Allah, people got involved in recklessness, wickedness, and steadiness. Imam Ali touched on the subject of Abu Bakr unfairly giving the caliphate to Umar again. He used the phrase shared its udder strictly among themselves, which indicates that both Abu Bakr and Umar milked their times and profits as caliphs and gave none to others. Imam Ali also stated how Umar made plenty of mistakes, such as burning the famous library of Alexandria after conquering Egypt, even though Imam Ali told him not to by saying, "Don't burn knowledge, for knowledge is useful to everyone." During the time of Umar's caliphate, he frequently asked for Imam Ali's help and stated, "If it wasn't for Ali, I would have perished." He compared Umar's time as a caliph to the rider of an unruly camel, meaning there is no answer or way to solve an issue no matter what he does. Due to his act, nevertheless, I remained patient despite length of period and stiffness of trial, till when he went his way of death, he put the matter of caliphate in a group, and regarded me to be one of them. But good heavens! What had I to do with this consultation? Where was any doubt about me, with regard to the first of them, that I was now considered akin to these ones? But I remained low when they remained low, and in this passage, Imam Ali refers to what Umar did to choose the next caliph. Umar put Imam Ali and 5 other men under house arrest to choose a caliph between themselves, which is the improper way to choose a caliph. He continued on by showing his frustration, for why did they just now choose him to be part of this consultation? One of them turned against me because of his hatred, and the other got inclined the other way due to his in-law relationship, and this thing and that thing. Till the third man of these people stood up, with heaving breast between his dung and fodder. With him, his children of his grandfather, Umayyah, also stood up, swallowing up Allah's wealth, like a camel devouring the foliage of spring. Till his rope broke down, his actions finished him, and his glory. In this part of the sermon, Imam Ali begins talking about the third caliph, Uthman ibn Affan, whom was known to give his unworthy relatives states of power. A lot of these relatives, which Uthman brought back, were enemies of Islam. The brilliant lines and metaphors that Imam Ali used perfectly reflect how money-hungry and greedy Uthman. At that moment, nothing took me by surprise, but the crowd of people rushing to me. It advanced towards me from every side, like the mane of the hyena. So much so that Hassan and Hussein were getting crushed, and both the ends of my shoulder garment were torn. They collected around me like a herd of sheep and goats. When I took up the reins of government, one party broke away, and another turned disobedient, while the rest began acting wrongfully, as if they had not heard the word of Allah saying, "That abode in the hereafter, we assign it for those who intend not to exalt themselves in the earth, nor to make mischief therein, and the end is best for for the pious ones. Quran chapter 28 verse 83. This part of the sermon highlights how desperate the people were to have Imam Ali as a caliph, for they have suffered through unjust and tough times with the first three. The Imam also talks about how when he was finally the caliph, some groups of people started mischief and wrongful acts. He then stated that those people must have heard the verse of the Yes, by Allah, they had heard it and understood it. But the world appeared glittering in their eyes, and its embellishments seduced them. Behold by him who split the grain to grow and created living beings. If people had not come to me, and supporters had not exhausted the argument, and if there had been no pledge of Allah with the learned to the effect that they should not acquiesce in the gluttony of the oppressor and the hunger of the oppressed, I would have cast the rope of caliphate on its own shoulders, and would have given the last one the same treatment as to the first one. Then you would have seen that in my view, this world Here the Imam talks about how greedy the three caliphs were, for they only longed for the blessings of this world, forgetting about the hereafter. He also states that if it weren't for the pledge with God, he wouldn't have cared about being a caliph, for as he said, that to my view this world of yours is no better than the sneezing of a goat. A lot can be learned from that line, for this world is but a test. The true reward is in the hereafter. For Imam Ali didn't seek the caliphate for power and money. Rather, he wanted to lead the people to the path of guidance, the path of piety, the path that will It is said that when Imam Ali reached here in his sermon, a man stood up and handed him over a letter. Imam Ali began looking at it when Ibn Abbas said, "O Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali, I wish you would resume your sermon from where you broke it." Thereupon he replied, "O Ibn Abbas, it was like the foam of a camel, which gushed out but subsided." Ibn Abbas says that he never grieved over any utterance as he did over this one, because Imam Ali could not finish it as he wished to. Thus, the sermon was named Shaqshaqiya, which is the Arabic word for the act that the camel does when angry.